Hello, everybody. This is the abbreviated show because I had a lot of problems getting in, but this is the Stephen D. Kelly Show. My name is Stephen D. Kelly, and this is Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. It is now May 16th, 2024. It is 6:23. I apologize in advance to anybody that tuned in and had to listen to that really annoying loop I was doing to try to wait until the computer got booted up. But my apologies to you. And if you stuck around through the whole thing, you're truly wonderful. All right. I did take a bunch of questions earlier in the day in the group asking people what they wanted to learn about. And some people, did the Getty. And some people, they wanted to learn spirituality. Some people wanted to learn about science and spirituality. And a few people wanted to hear about actually what I'm going to say without describing what it is they said turned out to seem to be manifesting. So I think that's a big thing to learn about. And I think that as I was thinking about the things that you guys were seeming like you wanted to learn about, it occurred to me that a lot of the stuff I said in the last show covered some of the information that you were looking for. So I think you might want to go back and revisit that. I apologize if you got annoyed by the little loop thing there, but I think that a lot of the questions that are lingering in the group could be answered if you look again at that stuff there. Now, I want to get into some current events, and I want to complain, and I want to talk about some of the nasty things that are going on, but obviously, ultimately, the mission is the same, the Occupy the Getty, the movement, and what we're really trying to do. But the key, of course, is really manifesting, because we are trying to not just control the narrative, but to control the future and to control the reality. And the things that we are intending to have happen to the world and to the population of the world and to the reality that we're all in are very dramatic and, let's just say, extreme. And at the same time, some people might say fantastic, but we would say it's destiny. So the importance of that, understanding that, is really important. And I know that some of you, because I've gotten reports, are seeing the rising of the tide, seeing the momentum that we're building on start to show itself in ways that are visible and tangible. And of course, it's because of that reason there that the opposition is going to do what they can to try to screw up my show. In the old days, now I'll tell you, back in Revolution Radio days, we were getting screwed with all the time, and it was very rare that I had a show that the Skype didn't completely just cut off and have to be rebooted. And when I say rebooted, I mean the entire program had to be wiped and then reinstalled. It was pretty crazy stuff, what we had to go through. It's a lot better now, but at the same time, like they say, the flak gets heaviest when you're over the target. So let's talk about the target. Now, I'll tell you, the West, the people that we're dealing with, they're making themselves really visible. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that I didn't have here in front of me, but one of the things I do want to have is the lyrics to a song by Neil Young. I personally don't like Neil Young. Now, why? Why would I want to look at the lyrics for this ridiculously stupid song? Well, it's because of Anthony Blinken. Now, Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State, whatever you want to call him, he went to Kiev, and it's not a very good song. I don't want to go through the lyrics very much, but here's the thing. I want to show you the reality of what's going on, because a lot of you have noticed that prices are going up, things are getting crazy, Satanism is really heavy duty, a lot of crazy things are happening, but the big thing that we should be focusing on is this massive change in the world that's happening just outside of the perspective of our media and what we're exposed to. So we'll just kind of, for the minute, focus on the war in Ukraine and then move into other areas. But like I said, Blinken went to Ukraine. And unlike Putin when he traveled to China, because Putin just went to China. We'll talk about that. Putin flew. Blinken had to take a train. Blinken probably had to fly into Poland or something like that and then take a train to Kiev. You know, a train, okay? No planes. It's that bad. When he got there, he promised idiot over there, Zelensky, that there would be more money and that we're with you and all that, blah, 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 and everything else. No troops, whatever. But he went on a little tour. And the last time he was there, he went to a McDonald's. This time they said, no, we're not going to go to McDonald's. We're going to take you to a place that serves authentic Ukrainian food. Now, when I think of authentic Ukrainian food, I'm thinking, gosh, what's that? Borscht? I mean, come on, it's probably the same thing that is Russian food. So they took him to a pizza place, you know, right? Nothing more Italian or nothing more Ukrainian than pizza. Well, anyway, there was a band there playing, and he got up on stage, Blinken. If you know anything about this guy, he's Mossad. You know, he's the guy that grew up with what's her face, Ghislaine Maxwell. But so what did he do? He sang this song, and he had a guitar. Now he's left-handed, which means he was playing on a left-handed guitar, which means that the odds of that band having a left-handed guitar sitting there are probably like zero. So what we're thinking is that this is a guitar that probably belonged to Blinken. They brought it with them, which means they planned the whole thing, which means he practices this song. It's probably his song. He loves this song. This is his song. So he got up on stage and sung it. Now, again, I can't stand Neil Young. I can't. But when I hear this story, I think Neil Diamond. I think, okay, this guy's so Jewish, it's got to be a Neil Diamond song. No, it's Neil Young. Now, I don't know if Neil Young is Jewish or not. He's a Canadian. But Neil Diamond, of course, he's the Jewish Elvis. So I would expect, why didn't you sing a Neil Young song, dude? But anyway, we'll look at some of these lyrics that, at least the first couple, 4 lines, 8 lines, okay? There's colors on the street, red, white, and blue, people shuffling their feet, people sleeping in their shoes. So I don't know, this is some allusion to patriotism and flags, and yet there's bums, people sleeping in their shoes. We'll give a couple more lines here. Next 4 lines. There's a warning sign on the road ahead. There's a lot of people saying we'd be better off dead. Don't feel like Satan, but I am to them, so I try to forget it any way I can. Now, of course, to me, I'm thinking this is probably why Blinken likes this song. This is probably why he's been playing this thing most of his life. It's because he is Satan. He is one of them. He is as bad as it gets. He's walking in the weight. He's carrying the weight. He's in the gravity of what he's done, what he represents, the purpose he's connected to, his mission. He's wicked. This weighs you down, sucks you to the earth like gravity. Then it goes on, keep on rocking in the free world. And I'm not going to repeat that. There's another one here. Let's see. I mean, these are really bad lyrics. But he says, I see a woman in the night with a baby in her hand. There's an old street light near a garbage can. Now she put the kid away and she's gone to get a hit. That means she put the kid in the garbage can. And she was going to go get some drugs. She hates her life and what she's done to it. There's one more kid that'll never go to school, never fall in love, never get to be cool. Anyway, then they make references to George Bush after the stanza. And they go, we got 1,000 points of light for the homeless man. We got a kinder, gentler machine gun hand. Now, I think that's enough. Oh, well, why not? We'll go on another thing. We got department stores and toilet paper. We got styrofoam boxes for the ozone layer. Got a man of the people says, keep hope alive. I think that was supposed to be Clinton. got fuel to burn, got roads to drive. Okay, very dated, of course, but the point is that, to say the least, this is an extremely inappropriate song, or very inappropriate lyrics for somebody representing the United States to be saying in another country. Now, bear in mind, this is a guy that represents an administration that's allowing our country to be overrun at the borders and our cities to be flooded with, well, let's just say, oh, there's a nice word, detritus. The detritus. Here's your word for the day, people. Detritus. Flotsam, jetsam, trash, scum, debris. Detritus is a fun way of saying the trash of the earth. Anyway, yeah, the unemployed, the uneducated, the southern hemisphere, whatever it is, these countries, yes, there's an effort to take the lowest rungs of those societies and those cultures and send them over to us to bring us down so that they may rise up. Interesting. But this is a major part of this administration, not just this administration, of course, but the global world. And when I say global world, I'm talking about the EU, NATO, and all of that. I do have to talk about NATO because there are some significant things going on, not just in Ukraine, but just to cover Ukraine really quick. I said that just a few days ago that Kharkiv had fallen. I think they're still fighting for it, but the point is that, briefly, the Ukrainians had 3 lines of defense, over a very large front line. And these have all fallen, and their troops have fallen back and kept falling back and falling back. And they had fallen back to the last and third line of defense months ago. Now, Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine. Probably millions of people. It's not easy to take a city that big, only because of the logistics and having so many people in it. But whatever money was allocated for the defensive structures in that city, apparently when the Russians arrived, nobody knew where those structures were. And they go, wait a minute, where'd billions of dollars? Weren't you guys supposed to build a bunch of, anyway, okay, the latest excuse is, well, it's not that there weren't any defenses. It's that the defensives that were built were just not in the right place. So either way, this is a really bad thing for Ukraine, because being that there is no lines of defense, there's no structures, no logistics, nothing, what that means is that there's now basically a flat field going all the way to Kiev with no cities, no big rivers, nothing. It's going to be easy. Well, Dnieper, but that's different. But point is that the obstacles are all gone. The front line is breaking. It used to be there were 4 zones of operation. Now there's 5. There's actually 5 fronts going on this entire thing. And Russia has groups in each one of these, military groups that are in each one of these fronts. And they have a huge amount of troops behind them that are not engaged. They're not on the front line. They're just waiting. So everybody expects that there is going to be a major offensive, of course, eventually, when the ground hardens and all that sort of thing. And I suspect that they will have to bring in those guys if they're going to completely take over that second largest city after Kiev. That's bigger than Odessa, apparently, which hasn't fallen. So it's only going to be Kiev and Odessa very soon. So what is Blinken doing there? Making promises. Driving the train in because he's sure not going to fly in, but they're trying to buy time, of course, until the election. It's just not happening. Now, the Europeans, of course, well, people in the EU, I hate to say Europeans in general, but the players that are involved in, I'm talking about countries that have defense departments run by women, or Secretary of Defense, the head leading general military person for these countries are women. I mean, or even the prime ministers for that point. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania all have 3 very hawkish, pro-Nazi female prime ministers that all pledged the lives of their youth, their young men, to defending the Ukraine. But here's the thing: all of these countries, these European countries, even though Putin has basically said there will be nuclear war if they do that, they think that what they can do is go into the western parts of the country or the parts of the border that are facing Belarus up in the north up there. And then all those Ukrainian troops that are stationed in those areas will be able to go to the front line in the east. Wow, how thoughtful. All those soldiers who are lucky enough to be on the quiet front line, assuming that Belarus doesn't invade any day, they're now going to get to die in the trenches with the rest of them. So obviously this is not going to fly. None of this is going to fly because the Russians are advancing very fast, and at the same time, they're extremely patient, they're extremely meticulous, and they're extremely efficient. We'll talk about warfare in more detail, but the point is that whatever cohesiveness there was in the front line, or what was left of that last line of defense, it's broken in many places. The Russians could surge through it anytime they want. But instead, it's a war of attrition, and they're eliminating the manpower bit by bit by bit. So there will be no opposition. So anyway, the Russians are very good at this stuff. And if you've been paying any attention, their drone production is exceeding that of the United States. When I say drone production, I mean these little things, that quadcopter things that they use to fly in munitions. And if you've been paying attention, well, who's the number one supplier of these things? Of course, China. And warfare in the future is going to be a lot of these things. It's going to be something that you can't understand. Swarm tactics. They're learning something from this war. And that is, if you swarmed a target with drones, it can't be defended. It can't. You can't expend missiles. You can't use Patriots. Even a guy with a machine gun can't take out a swarm of drones. So there's very little, short of some sort of electromagnetic warfare, which is something that they're really going to have to get ahead in, because Russia right now is very ahead in there. They're going to have trouble with this. Now, the European Union, as well as the United States, has been working very hard on China to try to basically shame China into stopping its cooperation with Russia, to back away from Russia, to basically stop Russia from having access to Chinese electronics, Chinese chips, Chinese weapons, Chinese whatever it is, raw material that is supposedly being used, dual purpose stuff that's supposedly being used to fuel the war effort. Well, obviously this is not going to happen, but the United States and the West, of course, have been sending it's Janet Yellen's, the Ursula von der Leyen's, the Antony Blinken's and such to Beijing. I am trying to remember if this is true, if Biden actually went there. I don't think I can't even remember now. And there was no red carpet. There was no delegation. He was met by a very lowly, well, I guess that was probably Blinken, but he was met by a very lowly representative, a trade representative for the city that it was in. Now, when Putin showed up, he had just been reelected for another term. And everywhere he walked, there was red carpet. There wasn't just red carpet in front of his airplane. There was red carpet everywhere. And I'm not saying covering everywhere, but any potential path he could walk down had red carpet. There was no limitation whatsoever, unlike what they gave here. Now, here's the other thing. When Putin was reelected, per the law, the way it's set up over there, everybody in the cabinet, everybody in the parliament, they basically resign, and positions are, well, not parliament, but these secretaries, various secretaries, they resign, and sometimes they're reappointed, and sometimes they're promoted, sometimes someone's new put in there. But this time around, a lot of big things happen. Well, Sukhoi, the big general, I keep wanting to say Grasmov, but and not Zhukov, of course, but Sukhoi, whatever it is, the guy that was the head general, he got promoted to a position which is basically in the head of the military-industrial complex. Now, just like if you look at my program or my platform, I talk about the same sort of thing, basically saying that the entire military-industrial complex needs to be taken under one roof, one umbrella, one control structure because of the greed and the graft and everything else that goes on right now, which is basically giving our country overpriced material that fails in the battlefield, like we're seeing right now. And of course, Russia, who you could say has been on a war footing since the 40s, they have an advantage in that respect because there is control, and they don't allow the corruption that we have here in the USA or the overpriced nonsense. The stuff is very functional. But the point is that, well, guys like, most of these people stayed, and there was new people brought in, but all of them went with him to China. When he went to China, he brought his entire staff with him, all these people. I'm trying to think of the name of he's keeping his diplomat, the big diplomat that everybody, the guy that chews gravel for breakfast, what's his name anyway? But the point is that why would he bring his entire cabinet? Why would he bring this staff, all these new people, all his great brain trust with him to have this big meeting in China, to have a face-to-face with all the great brain trusts over there? So if anything, all of these efforts to try to curtail the cooperation between Russia and China, they're failing in a spectacular way. Spectacular way. This is not a good thing. There was a major deal here just between China and India. I believe it was oil or something like this, some sort of big transaction. And the entire deal was done in rupees. They didn't do dollars. It used to be doing something like that, you'd end up going to war. But I'll tell you something. In Europe, that two things happened. Slovakia and Georgia. Both of these countries one of them is EU, I believe. Slovakia is EU. And Georgia, they're trying to make EU. In Georgia, of course, they passed a law. The law went through, which was a FARA-type act, a Foreign Agents Registration Act. That's what they call it here in the United States. You know, everybody that's giving money to our whatever congressmen has to register, except for Israel, of course. AIPAC, that's a big problem. But this is a very American thing. But over in Georgia, they're calling this law authoritarian Russian thing, when it's no different than the one we have here. So what we have over there in Georgia right now, even though this law is passed through, we have all these young people and what have you in the streets, people who have gotten a massive amounts of money and support from people like, your George Soros of the world. You know, the whole purpose of this FARA Act is to deal with non-governmental agencies or NGOs that are practicing and working in the country and spending money and giving money to people. And it turns out, I mean, if you had to guess how many of these NGOs were working in a little tiny country of Georgia, a country that's only got 7 million people. Seriously, the country's only got 7 million people, 6.9 million, something like this. And there are not 10, not 100, not 1,000, not 10,000, 40,000. 40,000 NGOs operating in that little tiny Republic of Georgia. What an absolute F. Now, all these guys have to register. Of course, they're screaming. No transparency, no transparency. What could possibly be wrong with transparency? Supposedly, this law is anti-democratic. What could be more democratic than lack of transparency? So obviously, this is extremely corrupt and backwards, and if anything, it's very fortunate that this law was rejected in Georgia, so that they can root these powers out and perhaps bring a little more security into their country, because obviously it's nothing good for Georgia to join the EU and nothing good for the EU to have Georgia join. But what about Slovakia? You know, there's a lot of politicians that are moving forward who we wouldn't really call right-wing per se, but let's just say they're freedom. like Orban over in Hungary. But there's one guy in Slovakia, prime minister, and he just got shot. It was an assassination attempt. It happened a day ago. I think it was roughly a day ago. And whatever it was, he was in some town, probably politicking, and some guy came up and shot him 5 times. He took 5 bullets to the body. He's still alive, but he's in critical condition. He's in grave condition, as they say, and it's really going to be not good if he dies, because he's a very charismatic person. And of course, if he did die, that would be a big blow to the freedom, the true freedom over there, and it would be a big plus for the wicked guys that we know are responsible. We know who they're responsible, and we can tell because they're gloating over it. You look at the Western press right now, and they're basically saying that this guy had it coming. This is what happens when you're a bad guy, when you go against them. Seriously, Western media is saying this sort of thing. They're ghouls. So yeah, a web of lies, various web of lies. Well, I want to kind of end this up. I don't really want to go too much more than that, but the bottom line is that when you guys talk about what we can do to stop this stuff and how you can increase your power, because yes, this is exactly what I'm trying to get all of you to do. I know a lot of you are becoming more and more angry as you become more and more aware, and that's part of this process of the big wake up. Is you are going to have this period where you're going to be very angry, and during that time you're going to be very passionate about this subject matter, which is good if you use it to do more work and bring more people in. Very important. But the thing that we're trying to do, because I know all of you are saying, well, how's it going to happen? I got to have it in front of me. Show me the path, blah, blah, blah. It's very difficult for me to tell you exactly what it is you're going to have to do, and all I can really tell you is that the best thing to do, well, the part that I think that may sound strange but would probably help, is to focus on me. If you don't understand what's going on, focus on me. Give me the power and let me manifest it, because this is my manifesting, and it's your guys' energy that amplifies what I do. So I go through every day with a certain amount of reality that you guys may not be able to understand, but it comes with the territory. And if you want to be magic, and you want to do the healing, and you want to be spiritual, and you want to do all this stuff, you're going to be in your head. It's going to be mental. It's going to be in your psyche. It's going to be in your daydreams. It's going to be in your dreams. And that's how you manifest, and you have to know it's real, and you got to stop having doubt. And it's almost like if you want somebody to lay it out and prove it to you and make it visual for you, you need to be stronger than that. And of course, number one is your service to others. Number one. So when you are seeking these things, you are trying to be stronger, you are trying to get that wisdom, get that magic, get those spiritual gifts, you have to ask, you have to listen, and you have to give. You're going to do something, you're going to serve, you're going to do as much service as you can, and you're going to say, I'm doing this with the intention of being worthy of this task and this mission. And you keep doing that, and you'll see it happen. It will happen. But like I said, what we're manifesting is something greater than we can even see. And obviously, the more details we have, the more precise our manifesting is. But that's why I need you to support me with that energy. And you need to look at my vision. You just have to have faith and know that it's going to happen. And that's the key word here, is faith. That's what manifesting is. It's faith. It's undying faith that it will be. It will be so. It will be so soon. Okay? So if we have more of that, I think it will probably happen sooner. That's really the key here, people. It really is. And like I said, it is complex. So if you ask me, how can I, well, What's the first step? What's the next step? Like I said, it's grandiose. We need to have something so massive in scale and so, well, wonderful, extraordinary, miraculous, that everybody will wake up, and this energy and this momentum that we've got now will explode. We're getting close to that point. But at the same time, yes, we do have to work at the manifesting. We do have to remember how that reality is going to turn out. So just know that it will turn out. All right, again, I apologize to you guys for the horrible mix-up at the beginning. And again, this is a short show. It looks like I'm going over it a little bit. So what? No? Yeah, not yet. Anyway, I want to remind you guys, if you want to help out, of course, every little bit helps. Please use the PayPal, which is StephenKelly714@yahoo.com. And please say friend or family. Find the button you got to check. I noticed that there's a somebody set up an account out there in PayPal. It looks like it says Stephen Kelly or something like that. Obviously, it's not me, unfortunately, right? So, yeah, wow. I'm just imagining how many people out there are doing stuff like that, and who knows. So, let's see what else. Also, of course, my email, law17gun@aol.com. And that's how you get the book from me. That's how you get healing. That's how you learn to become a Jedi, or anything else that you need from me whatsoever. Okay? All right, everybody, join my Telegram group. Amazingly enough, Telegram seems to be a very important platform out there in the world, so I'm pretty happy about that. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you soon. Of course, get active on Twitter. Help me grow, all right? Help me grow the Telegram group. Help me grow on Twitter. Tell more people to tune in and listen. And don't be afraid to send me messages and ask for advice. All right? So with that, I'll say good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.